Hey, what's up, guys? You caught me on my drill weekend. This is the one weekend a month where I actually answer the real life Call of Duty. So, we were talking about the invention of money, and there was a couple of stories in that hour-long clip that we listened to where I know that none of the real concepts caught me off guard or really surprised me because I've seen that movie Zeitgeist, and not the one about religion, but the one about the Fed and how they make money out of thin air, so to speak. So a lot of that kind of like clicked in place when I was listening to it. I'll leave a link down in the description just in case you never heard of it. Check it out. It's really interesting if you want to know more about how they create money, where it goes, where it comes from. They go really in depth if you want to watch the full video, or I'm just going to leave the link to the trailer so you can just get a gist and a general idea. But the concepts that I did think of when I was listening to that entire hour-long clip were when Mr. H was talking about the invention of money. Money is kind of imaginary. It just really doesn't exist. Yes, we have paper dollars, and it's something you can touch, and it's physical, tangible evidence of value, but it is still a piece of paper. It really is nothing. Based off of the gold standard years ago, where you can actually turn it in and you get a piece of gold for what you had, that was different because you actually had the gold in hand, or you could go get that gold and you can actually say this is value right here, not a piece of paper, something that somebody can forge. This gold stone is actual money. Something worth value like that, if money that we use right now is imaginary, the study of it, and if we studied it, we would call that economics. That makes you studying an imaginary subject, which makes that imaginary, because you can't really produce anything either. You can't show cold hard proof. You can draw graphs and things, but that proves nothing, and Mr. H can back that one up, that you can be wrong. But that would also mean that Mr. H's job is imaginary. Not really being a teacher, but being an economics teacher, his job is all imaginary. So is it just in his mind, or maybe it's just in this video? Everything's imaginary. Anyways, the next concept that I thought about was when I went to Iraq. One of the times that I went with the first COSCOM out of Fort Bragg. This first COSCOM, we had 2004. It was much like the Wild Wild West. There weren't a whole lot of rules. People died all the time, and you can get away with pretty much anything. There are a whole mess of stories and things like that, but the one that really stuck out was when they were talking about blood money. The concept of blood money came about when there was a man that I went with on a mission, and he was a journalist. He was in an accident where everyone in his car died except for him. And he had some cash on him, and he actually was covered in blood, and he saved a $100 bill that was covered in blood. Because when you go out on the normal economy in Iraq or Afghanistan now, they take American dollars anywhere over the old Saddam dollars or the new currency that they have now. When he had that money, that pretty much got him a golden ticket anywhere. When they saw that he had money actually covered in blood, something cold, hard, and tangible, that means that you had value, something of worth. And that brought to my mind when we were listening to that part about Brazil, when they were talking about having this idea of a currency. And then you had to trick people into thinking that this currency was real. For only a short time, they just tricked everybody, but they eventually had to back it up with actual physical cash. So the banks had to, wait around, and everyone was asking, is the inflation rate going to go down? Is it going to happen? They say, yes, trust me. That trust was only reinforced the day they walked into that bank and actually pulled out the cash and said, this has value. This right here is the new currency. It's more valuable than the old stuff. Even though it really wasn't. They just had to tell everybody to calm down Take it easy. Get this cold hard cash in your hand. Feel safe. So that sort of trust was very important. The same concept happened in Iraq when you had to have money to give to these people. They had to have that trust, something in their hands that told them, yes, value. The last concept that I thought of during this entire hour-long clip was also the inflation rate and 401ks. Is that they were talking about the inflation rate for Brazil and how everything kept going up and up and up. And the value of your money in a drawer tucked away somewhere wasn't really valued at all because it was worth so much less the next week or the next day. So if we're talking about our 401ks and our savings for when we retire right now, the concept that I thought of is with the rising inflation rate, and we can look back at 1982 as a base year, we're never going to go back to that base year. Milk is never going to be 10 cents ever again, like in the 1920s. Milk is not going to be $1.50 like it was in 1980. So if the inflation rate is only going to rise, we have to be careful about that rate that we're going to have when we're investing, because if we put in $40,000 for the investment, that rule of 72 wouldn't really matter because of the inflation rate. The actual value of the money wouldn't be valued. No one would want that $40,000 because it would be worth maybe $10,000 by the time you retire. Even if the savings rate was higher than the inflation rate, there might come a time when during that time in your 40 years, the inflation rate rose like crazy and it had hyperinflation. Or right before you went in and tried to cash out, the disinflation hit and then now your money was valuable again. But all that time, the interest rates and things like that were going crazy. So how much money will you actually save by the time you're going to retire? I know myself, I want at least $2 million. $2 million will set me from the time I am 75 until I'm dead. And I plan on dying in 1 year, so I'm just going to spend all the money I want. But anyways, the last thing that I thought of was the 4 drinking buddies, and it's not really a concept or nothing that surprised me. I know that Mr. H is probably going to say, oh, you didn't think it was surprising that 4 drinking buddies were all talking about economy, coming up how to save Brazil? Not at all. Doesn't surprise me one bit. Drinking and talking about economy happens all the time. Leave your reply. Make sure you don't do it on YouTube. Go back to Blackboard. I love your faces, and we'll see you next time.